the bandana, braids, and distinct voice that transcends generations, Willie Nelson was more than simply a country music legend. For more than 60 years, his songs reflected the emotions of dreamers, outlaws, wanderers, and lovers. With a straightforward melody and a voice seasoned by reality, he moved people to laugh, cry, and think. However, something has emerged that seems more significant than any ballot he ever composed: a final, private letter that was only recently made available for those who accompanied him on dusty roads, over late-night radio waves, and through every note he ever played. It is not intended for headlines. The timing of its discovery has caused many people to stop, think, and listen to the songs that used to play subtly in the background of their lives. It reads like a curtain call, gentle, thoughtful, and clearly Willie. One thing becomes evident after reading it. Even though the road is now quiet, his song continues to reverberate like a wind-borne voice. An outlaw from the beginning, on April 29, 1933, Willie Nelson was born in Abbott, Texas, a little town with a single blinking light and more farms than roadway. From the beginning, life was difficult. When he was a little child, his parents got divorced, and Willie followed suit. Alongside his sister Bobby, was brought up by their musically oriented grandparents. When Willie was 6 years old, his grandfather got him a guitar, and by the time he was 7, he had already composed his first song. By the time the majority of children learned how to toss a baseball or ride a bike, Willie was already plucking cotton by hand in the fields and dreaming of a larger strumming chord that would eventually reverberate. Far away from that dusty Texas ground, his escape was music. It was more than simply a pastime. It was a lifeline and a language. Gospel hymns, big band recordings, the blues, and the sounds of vintage hillbilly radio shows were among the things that influenced him. He didn't just listen to music as a child, he studied it and lived it. In his early teens, he started playing at neighborhood dances and radio shows, gradually gaining the self-assurance that would serve him well for decades. He didn't only want to perform the well-known songs, he also wanted to write the ones that people hadn't heard before. Each lyric offered a glimpse into his heart, revealing honesty and a type of heartbreaking wisdom that was much above his years. He was establishing his own route rather than trying to follow one, and his obstinate originality would end up being both a burden and a benefit. Following a brief time in the Air Force and a series of odd jobs on the side, from CD jockey to Bible seller, Nashville, the legendary center of country music was Willie's target, but the city would not embrace him. Nashville wasn't entirely sure what to do with him in those early days. He had a new appearance, he had a distinct voice, his melodies roamed, and his composition was creative, beautiful, unusual, and frequently too contemplative for the polished radio hits of the day. His lyrics were profound. Willie as a performer was still misunderstood despite the popularity of songs like Hello Walls and Nightlife when they were recorded by other singers. He earned his living in smoke-filled bars and in poorly illuminated studios while he waited for the industry to recognize his vision. He battled the nagging doubts that arise when talent goes unnoticed for years while playing backup and selling songs for a little portion of their value. Patty Clean didn't become well known until he released Crazy in 1961, but even then he was still an outlier in his own genre. While others worked to improve their appearance, he didn't talk or dress like them. Willie frequently performed barefoot, wore faded pants, and had long hair. Instead of singing at you, he sang to you as though he was having a quiet conversation. His phrasing was loose and lived in. Talking to your soul, his music challenged, reassured, and confessed in addition to entertaining. Every note he played and every phrase he uttered had a subliminal rebellion. So he did what legends do. He left Nashville behind and contributed to the creation of something new, unpolished, raw, and rebellious. He joined Juan Jennings and Chris Christopherson as a founding voice in the outlaw country movement. Abruptly being different wasn't a drawback, it was his most powerful weapon. Songs about overcoming obstacles and being free. Playing it safe was never Willie Nelson's philosophy. He was an outlaw at heart, a gambler in spirit, and a poet in every word of his songs. Predictability was not the defining feature of his trip. It was characterized by abrupt changes, high stakes, and bold decisions that most performers wouldn't dare to make. He continuously toured, frequently giving more than he travels the nation in his trademark tour bus for 200 performances annually. Rose Honeysuckle, Willie never saw the journey as merely a means of getting to the next phase. The stage was the location. He lived with unrepentant freedom, smoking openly and expressing his opinions long before marijuana became a political talking point. It was home, meditation, and motion, all in one. Whether he was advocating for impoverished farmers through agricultural assistance, fighting corporate greed, or opposing wars, Willie never sought fame. Instead, he sought honesty. He once stated, You can't be afraid of the truth just because it might make someone uncomfortable. That simple statement became a compass for both his advocacy and his work. His disheveled beauty was mirrored in his personal life as well. He was married several times, had 8 children, and walked through periods of both domestic suffering and public turmoil. He understood the meaning of losing, falling, and rebuilding. When the IRS arrived with a $30 million bill in the late 1980s, they seized almost everything he owned, including his ranch, properties, and priceless instruments. Willie, however, didn't give up or panic. Instead, he penned and recorded the IRS tapes, asking, "Who will buy my memories?" The earnings of a minimalist acoustic album went straight to 30 IRSs in order to settle his loan. Then, instead of returning to the road defeated, he returned as a man who never gave up. It was unwavering, steady, and genuine Willie. He continued to sing despite all the storms. His music became a compass for millions of people, and he didn't waver when trends or reviewers changed their minds. Songs like Always On and Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain on the Road Again. My Mind's songs weren't just hits. They were ingrained in fans' daily lives, reverberating during highway journeys, weddings, funerals, and peaceful evenings. Unmistakably, his gentle, smoky voice communicated a type of worn knowledge that was impossible to create. Willie's admirers believed in him, not simply admired him. He didn't have to be flawless. He didn't use identities, production techniques, or filters to hide. He arrived precisely where artistry was honest and cracked. Willie never hesitated to show you his scars. He made vulnerability seem brave, and regret seem like something worth singing through. His music is ageless because of this. It was significant because of that. He had once stated 3 chords and the truth. That's what a country song is. And Willie continued to live up to those words, even though the reality was burdensome, particularly in light of the letter he left behind. Within a worn leather-bound journal that had obviously traveled many miles, a handwritten letter was discreetly found among personal mementos in recent weeks. The folds of the paper were wrinkled. It wasn't a rehearsed event or official declaration, but the words were clearly Willie's even though the ink faded a little. It was only a note, never meant for war headlines, but written with passion. The brief letter, which is now shared with his closest friends and family, and subtly shared with the rest of the world, provides a unique window into the thoughts of a guy who has dedicated his life to providing others with something to cherish. It doesn't aim for grandeur or impress. Willie is straightforward, kind, and incredibly human. You've most likely been with me for a while if you're reading this. There's no chronarf. There is just kindness in the words, not drama. He writes about his musical experiences and his unwavering appreciation for those who supported his songs. He proudly compliments his kids, referring to them as his true legacy, whether it be through jukeboxes in quiet taverns or road trips outside. He recalls his sister. He refers to his bandmates as Bobby, who is not just his musical partner, but also the soul behind every piano note I have ever stood next to. Brothers of the road, and looks back on decades of traveling with love rather than weariness. The tires he wrote were worn down by the miles, but the music remained unaffected. His remarks then turned to the supporters, who are the lifeblood of his path. "Thank you for walking beside me," he writes to all of his fellow travelers. "You didn't just listen, you lived it with the smoky honky-tonks, the huge city stages, the heartbreak ballads, and the bus ride laughs." Me, the letter's core is his reflection, but I also saw that his trademark humor is still present. I hope someone names a cannabis strain after me eventually. He jokes about something mild, a touch crazy, and long-lasting. I'd sit there with my guitar in my lap and think how lucky I am to have sung my truth and been heard to still be heard, he wrote on a few bus nights after the encore and the ovation when everything was silent. Want to continue to hear the music here. He concludes the letter with the same humility that has always characterized him. Don't save a stage for me, just keep the music playing. Play a real song, and if it moves, play it loudly. Nothing can quantify the legacy. Willie Nelson was more than just a musician. His name came to represent the essence of a genre. However, he consistently stood run with a worn guitar and a steady smoke-lined voice. He carved out his own road just outside its boundaries. He was the soundtrack of cross-country road trips under the stars and slow dances in Texas bars. He was the sound of revolt and introspection. His lyrics weren't flawlessly polished. They were shaped by personal experience. You could hear the weight of grief, the lift of joy, and the grit of endurance in each verse. He provided a voice to run with the external parties, the hopeless, the misfits, the wanderers, and the broken-hearted. He created a world where everyone could fit in by using his music to welcome the lost, the lonely, and those who had been told they didn't belong. He could compose a ballad about heartbreak that would make adult men cry, followed by a playful song about rolling joints on a tour bus. He was deeply erratic and loyal to that person, of Conaron that are calmant and loyal. Hesam like a temperance and behav, kamatri. Hem being a horrible plugins for ans by humber to make it to coincide to each you but blifteen and Joe Dowk. him bempas, what really ekmemenem combren and delightful, combren and comberan delightful, buri waldir go quiet tam shots who timber to hand the quavelas my combat above it compulsive. Katamakros, Kamora Kamdamanaboo. He sang alongside Dolly Parton, generating harmonies that resembled warm firelight. Kumpartruzid, he guided aspiring artists by being present, remaining grounded, and maintaining his artistic compass, rather than by giving lectures. But despite his fame and honors, he remained a human being. He made mistakes, accepted responsibility, and showed forgiveness. In his final years, he found serenity. Instead of slowing down, he continued to write, perform, and show up as usual. Willie continued to write and release records well into his 80s and 90s. Traveling with his sons Micah and Lucas, and writing books, he gave charity performances for soldiers and farmers. He never wanted to be a brand and only used the spotlight when it was necessary. He only wanted to speak the truth, one song at a time, and he was too honest for that. The journey never comes to an end. The void left by Willie Nelson's death cannot be filled. He was deeply ingrained in American society and country music for a long time. Not just a musician, he represented freedom, second chances, and nonviolent opposition. His unwavering presence was reassuring, like a well-known tune that always seems to come on when you need it most. The stillness is heavier now that he is gone, but his voice, words, and energy will always be a part of American music. Generations have been woven together by his songs. Parents handed them on to their kids late at night. When the world felt too heavy, friends played them. In kitchens, lovers danced barefoot to them. His music was felt as much as heard. Every song and note contained a gentle truth, a wink from a guy who had seen it all, and yet chose kindness and lived wisdom. Willie taught us that singing despite being broken is what life is all about, not perfection. It has to do with stumbling forgiveness. He showed us that grace may be found in imperfection, so consider writing the next stanza while making peace with the past. As admirers go back over his songs, interviews, books, and those iconic performances, whether in smoke-filled taverns or big festival stages, it's evident that Willie never really went. Growing older isn't the end of anything, but rather the strengthening of everything that counts. He's still out there, somehow, in the gentle stroke of his go-to instrument, in the swing of a steel guitar, and in every line that dares to speak the truth without holding back. He is currently traveling once more, this time perhaps not on a tour bus, but in the songs that never go away, in the spirit that continues to long after the final note. The music continues to play, performs because Willie Nelson and other superstars don't stop echoing.